Hello beautiful people, and welcome to another astrological hybrid, and in this one we'll be focusing on the upcoming full moon in Libra, which will take place on April 1st. So we will enter into a new month, the second quarter of 2026, with the full moon in Libra. And this is actually a lunation that got seeded with the new moon in Libra on 21st of October 2025, which was the first one of the 6 new moons we experienced on the 28 degrees. We just had the last one, the new moon in Pisces, recently on the 28 degrees, and the next new moon, which will be the new moon in Aries, which will take place on April 17th, will already be on 27 degrees, and after that the numbers will start decreasing. Why is this important? Because we are in the year 10, in the year 1 for simplistic reasons, or the 0 and the 1. So all of this is very valid, and now we're going to have the illumination of the first one of the 6 new moons that took place on this 28 degrees. And of course, Libra is all about relational dynamics, and with Venus, by the time of this full moon peaking, being in a sign of Taurus, which is the other sign of her rulership, we will be looking at what this means for us, especially in a square with that Pluto in the sky, and also Jupiter squaring this full moon, and Jupiter having this ongoing relationship with all the lunations we are experiencing since June last year, because it's ruled by Cancer, right? Being in Cancer, ruled by the moon herself. So we'll see what all of this means for us. But before I go any further, I just wanted to let everybody know that I will be unavailable for any kind of reading or anything throughout next week, the week of this full moon, because my husband and I are attending a vision quest. So we're taking some well-deserved time away from technology and all of that to connect to these new energies that we are all basking in at the moment, becoming available to us, especially with this Sun, Neptune, and Saturn conjunction, this new cycle of these energies of manifestation, co-creation. So I think everybody kind of needs and deserves a little bit of time alone to figure out what does this mean to you, and I feel with this full moon, because full moon is all about illumination, perhaps there will be more awareness, more understanding. This is, after all, a first full moon after the eclipses, right? We ended the eclipse season with the new moon in Pisces, but this is the first full moon since the eclipses ended. And also, this is a midpoint of the cycle, which will end on 10-10 portal. Actually, the new moon in Libra this year will be on the 10-10 portal. So that again is very significant, 10, the year we are in, and we will have the new moon in Libra on the 10-10. I mean, you can't make it up, right? So all of these numbers speaks, right? So without further ado, let's just get started with what is this moon about, really. Let's see what comes through. So as I already mentioned, the lunation that we are going to be experiencing at the moment, full moon, it got seeded with the new moon in Libra, which took place on October 21st, 2025 on the 28 degrees and 21 minutes. And at the time, we already had, Saturn was already in a sign of Pisces. Neptune actually was on the 0001 of Aries at the time. And Uranus was still in the sign of Gemini, at the time. And also, this was kind of almost a year anniversary since Pluto moved into the sign of Aquarius to stay. So anyway, there were a lot of energies that were present with us at the time, which some of them we are reconnected at this time. Of course, Saturn, Neptune back in the sign of Aries at this point, but Uranus we have still in the sign of Taurus for now, and Uranus will be moving into the sign of Gemini on April 26, 27, 25th, 26th, I believe, depending where you are in the world. And also, yes, this is a final full moon with Uranus in the sign of Taurus, ruled by Venus, and Venus being in the sign of Taurus in her rulership. And actually the two of them are going to have a conjunction on the 29 degrees of Taurus, again before Venus moves into the sign of Gemini, and then followed by Uranus into the sign of Gemini. So again, without jumping too far ahead, this new moon in Libra, which seeded this full moon we are experiencing at the moment, was actually at the time of conception, was squared by both Jupiter and Pluto. So it was kind of in a T-square with Jupiter and Pluto. And now at the moment, this full moon in Libra is also squared by Jupiter. So, we've gone a long way, but not really, because we still have the square from Jupiter. At the time, Jupiter was closing to the new moon in Libra, which was the crisis in consciousness, and Pluto was opening, square square, so that was a crisis in action. What do we need to break free pattern wise? Also with Jupiter, that was Jupiter pre-retrograde at the time of the new moon in Libra, so we not had all of this time to digest as we had just done throughout the Jupiter retrograde, which ended on March 10th. So Jupiter was still pre-retrograde at the time because Jupiter stationed on 11/11, and this was 21st of October. So crisis in consciousness at the time. What do we need to release with regards to old identities on who we thought we were? And now Jupiter is, Moon is in a new square to Jupiter, and Jupiter is in a new, like a first square, so crisis in action. So now we have to decide, right? Especially now with Jupiter being in the second decan of Cancer, which is the Scorpio, right? What makes you feel empowered, disempowered. At the time of the new moon, Jupiter was on a final decan of Cancer, which is the Pisces. So we had released a lot of things since October. We've gone through a lot. I mean, even just this year alone, it feels like, yeah, is it really just April? But on the other side, like, is it already April, right? It feels like so much has been crammed these first 3 months of this year. So it does feel like the time is going very quickly, but because there is so much happening, it feels like it must have happened over a longer period of time. So the whole concept of time is changing. Actually, as I'm recording this, Sun is having conjunction with Saturn tonight. So as I already mentioned, I'm pre-recording this. And also we are in that new cycle of Sun and Neptune. And the Sun and Neptune conjunction in Aries was the first one after 160 years, and starting a cycle that we will be evolving over the next 160 years or so. So these are big cycles. Saturn and Sun, not so much, because of course Saturn moves throughout the zodiac in about 29 years, and also Saturn will not be in Aries forever, that will be only the next two and a half more 3 years. So Sun conjuncting Saturn, but for this time round it's the first time in the sign of Aries. The whole manifestation is changing, how we experience in life, how we observe the meaning of life, that all is changing. So again, this Jupiter being ruled by the moon, being in a square to this full moon in Libra, and on each end is the crisis in action, what needs to be done, what needs to change, alongside with Venus as the ruler of this full moon in Libra, being in a square with Pluto, and this is also a first quarter square, which is crisis in action. Venus being on the 2°59' at the time of the full moon in the sign of Taurus, 2 degrees. That's of course Taurus degree foundation. We are creating, choosing new foundation, and it's all dependent on what do I believe about myself? Who am I? My relationship towards myself. And then, because we know, as the saying goes, that people will treat you only the way you let them to treat you, So your relationship towards yourself is the first one, right? Is the indication how everything else will follow from that. And as I mentioned many times in my previous videos, with Chiron moving into a sign of Taurus soon in June, the Chiron as the key between Saturn and Uranus, the manifested form, and where we have the potential to go. It will all depends on you, who do you believe to be, what do you believe is your value, what do you believe you can create. So as a static object in the sky, of course, post-Saturn, Sun, Neptune, Sun, Saturn conjunction, both of them physically are behind the Sun, which means closing phase, even though we just had this conjunction, which means that they are in a new cycle. But as a static objects in the sky, we would say they are in a balsamic closing phase conjunction to the Sun, which means that the old has ended, right? The old has ended. We know Saturn, Neptune, we will never have Neptune in a sign of Pisces in our lifetime. For some of us, we will experience Saturn in Pisces again, but nobody will experience Neptune in Pisces again, in this physical form anyway. So we know that a lot of things have ended. Now being in the Aries season, this is where we really, really start feeling this fire horse, right? Because, Aries, the fire, Sun is exalted in Aries, so it has the opportunity to be reborn, to recreate, right? Start from the beginning. And of course, Sun being the ruler of Leo, it's all about creation, creativity. So Sun loves being in Aries because he can create something new, perfect. And as I mentioned now with this post-conjunction with Neptune and Saturn in this new cycle, what do we choose to create? Where do we want to go? Of course, Chiron on this 25 degrees of Aries, 25 is an Aries degree, right? 24 is Pisces, 25 is Aries degree. So we have a lot of Aries energy over here, even though Mars, as the ruler of Aries, is still at this time, is still in the sign of Pisces. And actually, Mars was doing something too. What is Mars doing? Yeah, Mars is coming into an exact sextile with Uranus, because Mars and Uranus will have a conjunction in Gemini already. And this is a closing sextile, which is the Aquarius flavor. What are we releasing ourselves from? The past, right? So with the Saturn, Neptune, Sun, everybody being in a sign of Aries, also Chiron still being in a sign of Aries, as the key between Saturn and Uranus, and also Uranus preparing yeah, and Uranus is on 28 degrees, let's not forget, 28 again over here. So Uranus is of course preparing for his ingress back into the sign of Gemini, which is all about these timelines and the choices, that we have to choose from. And Jupiter post retrograde being on that second decan and the 15 degrees, which is a Gemini degree, of course, 15 degrees of Cancer. So this is all about being able to decide who do you want to metamorphose into, who do you want to become, who are you choosing to become, because of course the Gemini degree of Cancer on Scorpio decan. So these are the main things that are going on, but at the same time we still have other things, like Uranus of course is still in the trine with Pluto. This is an ongoing thing. The exact trine is happening in summer. And also the nodes, the North Node is still in the trine with Jupiter as the traditional ruler of the North Node, and the node slowly but surely will be coming closer to Aquarius, which the exact ingress is happening at the end of July, right? July 26th, if I remember correctly. And now we have also the Mercury post-retrograde in the sign of Pisces, and Mercury will have the conjunction with Neptune. This will not be the first time, because they already had a conjunction last year in the sign of Aries, but Mercury will also have a conjunction with Saturn in the sign of Aries. That is all to look forward to throughout April. So this I feel are the main things, with the Jupiter being in the square with this T-square, with this full moon, and Venus as the ruler being in the square with Pluto, but at the same time Pluto is in a trine with Uranus, ruled by Venus, and also Jupiter is in a trine with this North Node, and also with Mercury. Mercury, they're gonna have the third post-retrograde trine, because they had one pre-retrograde, during retrograde, and now post-retrograde trine. And this is for Mercury to Jupiter closing trine, which is a harvest. What are we harvesting? In a sense, our intuition, right? Like we are trusting and allowing our intuition to guide us. So I feel this is good with regards to, and obviously Saturn and Neptune are in opposition to this moon, because you see, this is the thing about, is there actually any in conjunction? Yeah, technically you could say that moon is in conjunction with Mercury, right? Yeah, there is an in conjunction between moon and Mercury, and that's it. Moon and Mercury. So this is the blind spot. Mercury, we know, is the traditional, Mercury is the ruler of the South Node, traditional or not, and is the upcoming ruler of Uranus. So there is an in conjunction between the moon and Mercury in Pisces, and this is exactly what it is. Because we only know what already happened, right? We don't know what hasn't happened yet. The mind cannot identify the unknown as anything other than the threat or the risk, because it hasn't happened yet. There is no data, there is no evidence. We don't know, am I going to survive it or not? Because, obviously, with Chiron moving into the sign of Taurus, survival will kick in. Like, hey, how am I going to survive this? Moving away from this structure into something completely alien and unknown. Like, what does this mean? So it is in conjunction between moon, full moon in Libra, and Mercury in a sign of Pisces in the trine with Jupiter, the harvesting trine. Like, okay, now we have the opportunity to reap the rewards. The only way we can get to the other side of it is through trusting something that is beyond the logical mind, trusting our intuition. And, there is a natural yod between the Pisces, Taurus sextile, and both in conjunction, Pisces in conjunction to Libra, and the Taurus in conjunction to Libra. So this is the natural yod that exists between these three signs, and it is because the past can never show you who you're becoming, you know. It only shows you who you were, and you can excavate the meaning of it, but you know, you don't necessarily understand the meaning in the time when it's happening, you know. That there has to be a lapse of time has to pass, because we never understand what's going on fully while we're going through the process. You have to, you know, move through certain time and space, look back, and then go, okay, now I get it. And then also with Taurus, you know, when we look outside of ourselves for validation and for someone to confirm our sense of value or validate our needs and values, right? We're not gonna necessarily find it, right? Because everybody has their own, you know, the Taurus in opposition with Scorpio, the Libra in opposition with Aries, you know, like everybody has their own, you know, the things that they are intimate with and the things that they value and care about. So that's why with this Jupiter in a T-square with this full moon, it's saying like, okay, you know, now we had this 6 months of new moons on 28 degrees, you know, 6 months time that allowed us to see, to experience, you know, to go through the time and space, and now look back at the same things differently, right? Post Jupiter retrograde, post Mercury retrograde, and at the moment all the planets are direct until May, you know, when Pluto stations retrograde. So this is, you know, that very short precious period of time in every year, you know, when we have like a month and a half or 2 months maximum when we have no retrograde planets. So this is the time, you know, we're in it now, even though Mercury still is in his post-retrograde shadow until the 9th of April, and also Jupiter is still in his post-retrograde shadow. So we have all of these things going on. I think Jupiter will be there until like June, you know, like, because it got quite far before he stationed retrograde. So this is when really the awareness is starting to kick in, especially now being in the Aries season, you know. So the old astrological year is now fully done and this fire horse is fully kicking in. So we're starting to become aware, like, okay, yeah, you know, I can see things differently now. Things that I saw last year, also I've grown, you know, I understand myself better, or my process, or now I understand my feelings about what I've been through, or, you know, what I'm processing or digesting better, perhaps. So now with this Jupiter being on the second decan Gemini degree of this Cancer, you know, in the square with this moon, that it's the ruler of Jupiter, you know, being in the sign of Libra on the 12/21, I believe it is 12/21, that lunation. 12/21, which is that, you know, 12 is the hangman, right, which is the Neptune in the major arcana, and 21 is the world card, you know, which is the graduation, the Saturn. So and both add up to number 3, and, you know, 2 3s are of course 6, which is the balance, and 3 is the creation. So we are creating something new that can help us to come back to the point of balance, harmony, you know, to the 0 point. And also Libra is all about balance and harmony. So again, no surprise that is happening on that. I just got like, yeah, of course. And it's also happening on a day that adds up to number 6. I mean, no kidding, because the 1st of April, 1st of the 4th of the month, which is 5, and we are in a year 10, which is the 1, right? So 6. So here we got all these 6s, right? Which is a Venus number, Venus in the sign of Taurus in her rulership, Venus, the ruler of this full moon. And it's the opportunity to create more balance, you know. So again, we look back at, you know, what was happening in your life 6 months ago in October, you know, where were you? I know that I was actually traveling from Bali back to Europe at the time. So what's been happening in your life that now you had the opportunity to process what was happening at that time, and also you had the opportunity to go through this past 6 months of these new moons on 28 degrees, this seeding of this new energy, right? This energy of this new creation, and now you can look at things a little bit differently, or feel about them differently, or understand them differently. And then through that, you can make a new choice, right? Which is this Mercury in a trine with Jupiter, 3rd trine, right? And also, like I said, Jupiter is on the Gemini degree of that 2nd decan of Cancer, which is the Scorpio, and Pluto is in a trine with Uranus, and this is a continuum for the time being. And Mars is in a closing sextile to Uranus as well, which is the Aquarius sextile. So that's the releasing, you know, releasing ourselves from the old contract, releasing ourselves from the past, because, you know, it's, in a sense, it's already happened. It's already done. It's just like we are catching up to it, you know, with all of these full moons now from this Venus onwards until the full moon in Pisces, which of course will be the eclipse, you know, the final eclipse of 2026. Again, you know, can't make these things up. we are starting to understand. Yeah, we're not going back. Yeah, the way we lived before, the people we were before, the way we understood reality before, the way we thought before, the way we felt about things before, all of this is already finished. It's already gone. It's already finished. All that is now currently in a place is the shadows of it, the shadows of the past, right? The final stage of the manifestation is the physical, and the final, the reverse process, of course, the physical will be also the last thing to go, right? Because it was the final one to come, to become present with us. So that's why even with this Venus in that square with Pluto, and Venus being in Taurus, it's like, okay, so now you need to decide, who do you want to be? That's what you're also choosing with this Jupiter squaring the moon. And with the Venus being in Taurus, as still as the current ruler of Uranus coming into the conjunction, this is the really closing phase conjunction for Venus to Uranus, and they're going to conjunct on 29 degrees of Taurus, right? So not yet in Gemini, that one will happen next year. But Mars will already conjunct Uranus in Gemini in July. So this is where we've got it, this Venus is saying that, okay, the foundation that our life is built upon is gone, we still see the bones of it, but it's gone. And that is because you already changed, all of us, we're not fully aware of what have I changed into, because we are still in that in between, that process, the birthing canal, but you are no longer in a womb, and you are not quite out there yet, understanding that this is my new me. The old me is already gone. It's gone. Saturn already gone past Pisces. It's already gone. It's not going back to Pisces. Neptune is not going back to Pisces. Soon Mars will be out of Pisces. Mercury will be out of Pisces. Venus is already out of Pisces. So, you're not who you were before. You're not who you were at the time of this new moon in Libra, which seeded this whole process. And now we have the midpoint. Like, yes, it will reset on a 10-10 portal, by which point we will have everybody in the new signs, but Chiron will be back in Aries. So there will be a lot of masculine energy at that time. We still, in this, especially this year 2026, in a sense, we still going a little bit like like we are on the unsteady legs, the number one the number one, which is the Aries in in astrology, the first house, Aries, the first archetype. So we are still like learning, like, what does this mean? How do I walk? What do I do with this energy? Like, what is this? But we have good awareness now and good sense of what it isn't, right? Because with this Jupiter being in Cancer and connected to every single nation, all of this is amplified, and we feel it very strongly. We feel it in our being, and I know it isn't this, and that's why we become potentially very sensitive, sensitive to when we are once again being reintroduced to the same energy which we now identify as this is not it, this is the passe, or it's the something that I already grown out of, or it's something that you now identify is that this is something that is not gonna help me to become who I'm becoming. It's a restrictive energy rather than expansive energy. So that's why I feel that this 15 degrees of Cancer for Jupiter is very profound, because with the Gemini undertone, because it's saying that yes, you can always choose. And the Mercury in Pisces, it's saying tune in, tune into yourself to understand this. Mercury in Pisces is actually on a Cancer decan. You have 14 degrees Cancer decan. So there's again the Taurian influence there. Like you are learning the new sense of self, the new foundation of self. Like what does this feel like? This new, because like in many cases, like with the Mercury in Pisces, we cannot really speak it. We cannot really necessarily even share it or explain it, because this is something that you just feel, and this is where the words are limiting us. They are not able to quite pick up the energy of what we're feeling or going through. We just feel it. I just feel it, but I can't, I can't explain it. I can't really make a sense of it in many cases. And that's the Pisces, right? Like it is very nebulous, right? But Mars and Neptune are in that mutual reception still. So Mars is connected to Neptune through the rulership. Mars being in a house of Neptune, and Neptune being a house of Mars, and of course Jupiter also, traditional ruler of Pisces, and being in the trine with the North Node in Pisces. So we are expanding beyond the concept of reality as we know it. So, but we don't know where we're going, right? So again, going back to this Libra, Libra as the relational dynamic, but everything in existence in relational, you constantly and continuously relating to everything, to yourself, to people around you, to things around you, to reality as it is, to everything, to the vastness of the universe, to the ineffable, to the absolute, to everything. Everything is relational. We're always in relation. So with the Venus being in a sign of Taurus on the 2 degree, which is the Taurian number, but is number associated with partnership and also number associated with choice. What are you choosing? What are you choosing? What foundations are you choosing for yourself based on what matters to you? Because with this Uranus soon coming out of Taurus, going into Gemini, that's where you're gonna go. That's where you're gonna put your focus into. Uranus just showed us what it wasn't anymore. What wasn't supporting the trajectory that we are now on, this new trajectory, right? With the Pluto in the sign of Aquarius and Saturn as a traditional ruler also being now in a sign of Aries. So we are now in a new trajectory. We started a new cycle. We started something completely new, for humanity. So when everything is new, then everything has to change in a sense. So that's what we're learning. And this is, as I mentioned many times already in this video, this is the first full moon of those new moons that were seeded on the 28 degrees. So this is the first one that is going to illuminate, okay, what does this mean? And it's going to end with the full moon lunar eclipse in Pisces, which will be in August. That will be the final one. And then of course we will shift into the final, cardinal seasons, not long after that, final cardinal season of 2026, which will begin with Libra, right? Libra season, the Libran equinox, the autumn equinox for northern hemisphere. So the opposite to what we experience now. So yeah, that's what I feel like this year, until the summertime, until August. Which is when we're going to have the eclipses, the first one in Leo and the final one in Pisces. There are still a lot of things, and of course in September, Chiron will go back into sign of Aries. But there are still a lot of things in transition, until end of July when the nodes will shift into new signs. But then, the final 3 months of the year, the October, November, December, final 3 months of this year, which will be initiated with that equinox. There will be, the energy will be different, different from what we experiencing now, because now we are still in this transition from the old signs into new signs, even though Chiron still will be in Aries, but yeah, I don't want to go too much into future. I don't know what's going to happen, obviously, but I really feel that these times are very important, because we are choosing and deciding where do we invest our manifesting force, our energy, our focus into, So with these full moons that are now going to illuminate these 28-degree new moons that we experience since October, pay attention, and also pay attention where your energy is being tried to be harvested by something else, right? Because these are very... there is a lot of sensitivity, in these times we are experiencing, because it is time sensitive, that how do I use my energy? What do I invest my energy into? Where do I focus my energy? Where do I focus my mind? Like what is really going on? What's really going on? Because there are all these distractions, distractions and disruptions, coming from everywhere, from the external world, geopolitical, I'm sure the nature will contribute to a certain extent, the relational dynamics we are experiencing as individual, as collective, everything. So there is so much so much out there that is wanting to harvest your energy, your focus, you know. So that's why with these illuminations of these new moons, with the full moons, it's like, okay, you know, like you now see something you didn't see at the time of the new moon. You don't see what is being seeded, but at the time of the full moon, it's an illumination, you know. So with this Jupiter again square in this Libra moon, you know, just as it did, you know, back in October, but now it moved, you know. It's the first quarter square rather than closing square, you know. So this is a different energy, because in October that was pre-retrograde Jupiter. Now we have a post-retrograde Jupiter. So since November, between November 11th and March 10th, you were processing a lot of things. And of course, Mercury was helping, because Mercury is the ruler of the south node, Jupiter is the co-ruler of the north node. An upcoming ruler, you know, Mercury is upcoming ruler of Uranus, and Jupiter is connected to every single lunation. So there is a lot of expansion and potential for expansion that is available to us at this time, that is being offered to us. So the Libra is just saying that, okay, how do you want to relate to this reality? You know, are the relational dynamics in every area of your life, are they allowing you to expand, or are they restricting you? Are they pulling you back into who you wear, the costume that you now outgrown, or are they helping you to feel the costume that you are now choosing? Maybe you don't even see what the costume is, but you know what it feels like, and that's the difference. You know, you don't need to see, you don't need to know, but you know what it feels like, you know. So this is with the Mercury in that trine with Jupiter, the third trine, closing trine, the harvest trine, which is saying that, okay, now you can reap the rewards, you know, like trust your intuition, trust that inner compass that's guiding you. This Venus, you know, in the opening square with Pluto, Pluto being a sign of Aquarius, ruled by Uranus, Uranus being ruled by Venus at the moment, and traditionally Saturn in Aries being ruled by Mars in the sign of Pisces, in a mutual reception with Neptune, you know, also co-ruled by Jupiter in a mutual reception with the, not mutual reception, but connected to the moon. It's not in a mutual reception, but connected to the moon in the sign of Libra. So we have all of these connections that say you are continuously being you have a constant feedback, because the Libra, you know, the Libra element of life shows you the mirror. So you are in a constant feedback with the external world, you know. It's just showing you back, either that is wanted or unwanted, you know. It either confirms to you, yeah, I like this, you know, I like the people that I'm attracting into my life, or I like how I feel, you know, around these people groups, situations, whatever, or I'm attracting people that show me the contrast. I'm attracting opportunities that show me the contrast, that show me something that is no longer wanted, something that I have grown. Either way, it's a feedback mechanism, right? The Libra is a feedback mechanism. So with the Jupiter in Cancer, it helps you to feel it deeper. Like, no, this is not who I am anymore. I already outgrown this role. I outgrown this identity. With the Mars in Pisces, you know, it's cutting the past. It's allowing you to free yourself from the past. With the Venus in Taurus in the rulership, it's like, okay, we are here now creating new foundation, because the old foundation is already gone. With the Saturn Neptune now in this new cycle with Sun, but closing to Sun, like as a static object in the sky, saying, yes, this old way, this old new way, that the new way that was new is now old, you know, because now Mars is in Pisces, like it reached expiry date, right? But at the same time, this is a new cycle, so it's saying, okay, you have the opportunity to excavate the meaning, to excavate the meaning of the experience of the role, and put it into new creation, you know, new creation. Yeah, because let's see about this Aries, like, yeah, exactly, you know, Sun is on the second decan of Aries, you know, what is that? Is the Leo decan, you know, which is all about creation, and it's the 12 degrees Sun in Aries, you know, the Leo Pisces degree, but also I believe it's the August 12th, when we have the solar eclipse in Leo, So, you know, can't make these things up, obviously. But anyway, so that's what I feel, you know, that's what I feel like with this, everything that's happening, you know, inside you and around you. It's illuminating and highlighting to you how far you've come since October, and obviously it didn't start there, but you know, this is for simplicity, just since October last year, but obviously you can look at cycles within cycles within cycles within cycles, but this moon in particular got seeded with the new moon in Libra, which actually closed the cycle of the Libra eclipses that we had, because that new moon in October last year got seeded with the eclipse of the previous year, right? So being in a present moment, you know, you have the opportunity to feel and understand and realize where these old roles now became redundant, you know, where the absolute has changed, you know, the absolution of what we thought we knew has changed, it's transformed, you know. Jupiter is in Scorpio decan of Cancer. It's not what we thought it was. I am not who I thought I were, you know. I am morphing into something different. There is this new potential, there is this new creation waiting to be manifest. There are all these new things available on an energetic level, you know. Aries is still just a sparkle of creation, is not yet, doesn't yet have a form, right? That's Taurus. So, you know, Saturn in Taurus will have a while to go still, but this is all about learning to walk the new path, learning how we're going to be existing in this new reality, which is very different from the Piscean age, very different from what we have in a recorded history, right? Which again, you know, I don't particularly buy into personally, but yeah, so we are learning this new language, we are learning this new way of being. And then eventually you will know that no information can actually give you the guidance for you, you know, which is the Mercury in Pisces, right? Like the information that is relevant and meaningful to you cannot ever come from someone else, really, you know. It just comes from yourself, you know. The confirmation validation can, you know, when you go like, oh yeah, now I understand, you know, like, yeah, you just confirm something I already knew or felt to be true, you know, and you don't even know me or my life or something, you know. So this is where I feel that we are at, you know, like with this Aries season. The new moon in Aries, as I mentioned, is, you know, not until the end of it, April 17th, right? But on the 27 degrees, which is the 9, you know, the year that we just came out of last December. But we are never just at the beginning or at the end of anything. There are already seeds of everything, you know, like at the beginning of something, and the beginning of your life as a physical human, you already know you're gonna die. And at the end of your life as a physical human, you know you're gonna become something else. You're gonna be born into some different form, you know, form of expression. So there is never just beginning and ending. Everything's got a seed of everything in it, and we are always at some stage of some journey somewhere, you know, depending of what you're focusing on, because, you know, there are all these channels going on in the television at the same time, but you're not watching all of them at the same time, right? Just focusing on something, that's where your consciousness is focused. So yeah, you know, I feel that all of this verbiage doesn't really mean anything, but at the bottom line of all of it is that what is becoming illuminated to you, what you are becoming aware of in your life, you know, with regards to how you are living it, how you are connecting with it, how you are interacting with it, how does it feel, and does it feel restrictive or expansive? And that's the square to Jupiter. Have you ungrown those dynamics since October? So now you feel differently about maybe the same things, interaction with the same people that you had in October or before that. And also with the Venus, right? Venus in a closing phase with Uranus, Pluto, square to Pluto, and also Mars in the closing sextile with Uranus. Conjunction coming up in July in Gemini already. So there are all these different things that are telling us about where we are at. And, you know, at the bottom of it, you are creating a new foundation, because Venus is the ruler, and it's saying that the old foundation was connected to someone who is now gone, you know, in the sense that version of you is already dead, you know, from the energetical point of view, it's already gone. This is why it no longer resonates and makes you feel alive, you know, because you are now perceiving life, world, and your desire to connect with it differently. All right, with that, I'm going to pull some cards and let's see what further messages will come. So this will be the Queen of the Moon that we'll start with. Full Moon in Libra 2026, April 1st. You can say, what a joke, right? Let's see. full moon in Libra, April 1st. What is the guidance from the full moon in Libra? Okay. Realizations. Yeah, you know, and yeah, the keyhole, right? Chiron is moving into Taurus in June. Realizations about what really matters to me. What am I worth? What do I feel I deserve? You know, and it's a number 3, which is the number of Jupiter. Expansion in a major arcana is the Empress, which is Venus. So what are you realizing? What is becoming more conscious to you about who you are becoming, what you want to expand yourself into? There are new horizons opening up, you know, you are at the entrance. And with the Chiron in Taurus, you know, we're gonna get a little taste of it this year. And at the bottom is the wisdom. And this card has been coming up like almost every single time I use this deck. Yeah, wisdom. 22, learning from the wisdom of the ancestors. 22, the master builder. Number 4, creating a new structure which is going beyond, which is reaching for something much vaster and much more unlimited than what is this, right? This is limited. This is just somebody else's ideas, thoughts, information, but that, you know, when we label and name something, and this is also something, advisement that I was being given, and I don't necessarily follow, when you label and name something, you're restricted to that single definition. So she's going beyond that. She's reaching for the stars. She's reaching for the universe. So yeah, both these cards are very, are speaking of the same thing. Okay, the Queen of the Sun. Let's see, what's the Sun? Sun in Aries. What is the Sun in Aries about? In relation with this full moon in Libra. Sun in Aries, you know, you are being reborn. Oh wow, we have this Saturn, number 14. 14 is Temperance in the major arcana. This card also came recently, I believe. And yeah, boundaries, interesting, because Saturn to me always represents boundaries. This is a card of boundaries, number 39, which, you know, comes up to number 12 and then number 3. Learning to create boundaries around your own bubble. And look, there is an eclipse, you know, and I was talking about this August, you know, the August 12th, right? When is the new moon solar eclipse in Leo. The boundaries, creating a boundaries around this new you know, protecting it, protecting this new energy, not allowing the external world to create something different for you, to influence what that is, you know, to steal your creation away. So yeah, with this life, you know, like at the moment you can feel like things are still on hold, frozen, you know, things are still, you know, in the number 14, the Temperance, because that's, you know, how many of us feel like, okay, this new energy is here, but I'm still dealing with some of the past, you know, like, yeah, some people are already like, you know, like, oh yeah, I can feel it, it's so great, you know, fantastic. But everybody's at different stages, you know. So protect what is you, what is true for you, where you at, you know. Everybody is somewhere different, you know, becoming the conscious creator. The Saturn in Aries, the conscious creator, you know, Saturn coming out of the frost. And also we just entered into spring in the northern hemisphere. So we're becoming the conscious creator of the new life, of the new you, and protecting it, putting boundaries around what it is, you know. Don't allow someone else to steal your vision for what it is away, or the version of yourself that you are already becoming, you know. Don't allow somebody to talk you out of it and say, no, this is how I know you, this is what I want you to stay as, you know, playing the same role. No, with Saturn in Aries, you know, we're not Saturn in Pisces anymore. That karmic contract has dissolved, especially now with Mars ending his stint in a sign of Pisces. So let's see the portal. What is the portal? Oh yeah, and this is the, yeah, anyway, the portal. Let's see. What is the portal for this full moon in Libra on April 1st? Oh, this is so funny, because when I picked up this deck to shuffle it prior to starting, the same card came. the Akashic records, which is saying about clearing all stories, releasing past and freedom. Exactly, you know, the old stories are coming up to be cleared. You know, Jupiter is now post-retrograde. It is not the same Jupiter. And then at the bottom is the halls of learning. Yeah, spirit guides, confirmation, great lessons. Yeah, with the 12 and 21, we graduated from the lessons of the past. You know, the energy now has to be used in a different way. The past is gone, you know, that book is closed. We are here to create a new one. So tune into the wisdom, you know, that comes from other things than just books, even though sometimes it's a good starting point. But the true guidance eventually will only come from within. You know, all of this information that are outside of us, and this is, you know, certain extent where I don't know how to say it, not to be triggering, but you know, this is in a way what AI is indirectly helping with, because it's becoming so overbearing and overwhelming, and the amount of data and information that's coming through it that is not for us to process, its human brain cannot process it, that eventually we just burn out and we will check out and say, okay, I can't consume any more information, you know, and then you will just tune to the true guidance, true wisdom that is relevant to you. You know, spirit guides, confirmation, great lessons. You know, we already graduated from the lessons of the others. You know, now you're here to create your own. You're here to create your own, not to repeat somebody else's, learn somebody else's lesson. You came here to create your own. Okay, and I'm gonna pull from my special deck the Journey of Love, because it is Libra full moon after all, you know, with the Venus in Taurus. Let's see about the journey of love. You know, like this is all about you learning your way back to yourself through the relationship with everyone else and the existence as it is. So let's see what is the guidance. Okay, here we go. The space in between the worlds. Yeah, that's what I feel like. Many of us feel like that's where we are. I am not who I were, but I am not yet who I feel I'm becoming, and it's number 24, which is the Pisces degree, you know, 24, you know, the endings, but also is the 6, you know, the old is being balanced, you know, it's being brought to the 0 point with Libra full moon, and then at the bottom, drop into your heart. And this is number 68, which is 14, you know, again, we have this energy of temperance, drop into your heart, you know, all the pink and all the green. Yeah, the heart consciousness, the Christ consciousness, you know, the Aquarian age, opposition Leo, you know, we'll have all these new moon solar eclipses in Leo, not yet the full moons until like next 9 years. So here we are learning to connect in a different way, be guided with the heart consciousness, not with the mind, the ego mind. Yeah, so we are in the process, the space in between. Not everybody knows how to do this. I don't know how to do this. You know, we're learning through clearing the past, through lessening the load, making space, you know, like releasing. So then at the end, when there is nothing left, that's when you have an access to everything, right? Because there is a space, there is a void, so universe can fill it beyond your wildest dreams, you know. So we are in the process of learning to live life through a different centered place, through the heart place. But again, the heart is unconditional love. It's not the human love, it's the love of the universe. So it's talking about being able to connect to the universal consciousness, to the cosmos, to observe the reality through that lens, through the lens of your higher self, not the lens of the ego mind, which is not necessarily an easy process to allow and, you know, to be to replace the old way of being. Okay, final card, and this will be the major arcana. What is the guidance for the full moon in Libra on April 1st, 2026? Dated adds up to number 6, right? So let's see, full moon in Libra. Anybody wants to have anything to say? this one? Judgment. Judgment is coming up a lot. This is the Pluto card, you know, all about transformation. 20 reduced to number 2, right? Also number 2, High Priestess. Yeah, we're learning to wake up. And what does it mean to walk this earth, awaken, right? Very different experience. And yeah, at the bottom we have the Hanged Man. The Hanged Man and the Hermit. So yeah, here we got the Virgo, you know, learning through the year 9. We were learning through the snake shedding. We were learning, you know, what is this potential of me, of my future. You know, the Hanged Man that requires to look at the world differently, understand that this is an inverted reality we're living in. Most things you were being told are actually not true, you know. And that's also with Libra, you know. Libra is here to turn things upside down, inverted reality. So to awaken, you know, to understand, to connect in a different way. And it's like a number 4, creating a new structure. Yeah, being called into action, wake up. You know, we all here at this stage, somewhere in that process of awakening, you know, awakening to our heart consciousness, to reconnecting with the universe, to learn from the wisdoms of the past, wisdoms of the ancestors, and now go beyond it. And we are at the precipice, you know, we are in the doorway of that consciousness. So remember to put boundaries, you know, because you are the creator. You might think everything is yet frozen, but it's already happening underground, in the other realms, in the other dimensions. It's already happening. It's just not yet here. So anyway, I hope that any of this that I said resonated. And yeah, as I mentioned, I will not be available throughout the week of this full moon and also coming into Easter, because I will not be here. I will be somewhere else, hopefully connecting to my own spirit guides and everything that I'm advising everybody else to do. So that's my own process. And yeah, but if you do want to connect, then do so, and we can schedule reading for after Easter. And yeah, if you are Aries, then take advantage of the 25% of all my services available to you at this point. And also Taurus is, of course, because I'm one of them. And yeah, that will be for the end of the month with my birthday and whatever else will be happening at the time. So with that, I wish you all a wonderful Easter week, full moon in Libra, Easter weekend, and everything that awaits us next week. And I don't know exactly when I'm going to release this video, but whenever you're watching it, that's the time for you. But yeah, have a great time, and I'll speak to you again in the next video. Much love. Bye.